Hello, my name is Tanya Alva. I'm in Animals and Society Section 5. I'm majoring in criminology, and I am part of the animal testing group. Looking over the historic background information on animal testing, it was first experimented by early scientists known as Aristotle and Erasistratus in the 4th and 3rd century. They were both given the right to experiment on animals because it was a method for them to find new ways to improve the data and knowledge on commercial, medical, biological, and health issues. It helped them understand the functions of anatomy, such as the sensory nerves, motor nerves, and tendons. It also helped them determine harmful effects of medications and their advanced medical treatments. Some people were against animal testing because it was viewed as animal cruelty, and they thought it was wrong to test animals because animals and humans are two different things. Others are not okay with being compared to them and experimented to see if what affects them will affect us. Those who favor animal testing said it was a good idea to use animals for experiments because they have saved the lives of many people, and animals with life-saving treatment that have benefited people and animals over the years. Over 26 million animals are still being used for animal testing every year. Some of the animals used frequently are mice, frogs, dogs, cats, rabbits, hamsters, monkeys, horses, and birds. As mentioned, they are used for biology lessons pertaining to demonstration, medical training in the military workforce, to respond to emergency combat situations in which the animal can be purposely shot, stabbed, have broken bones, or even burned. The type of animals that they tend to use for this kind of training are both goats and pigs because they are similar to humans than any other animal according to them. In 1966, the Lab Animal Welfare Act was created due to concerns about too many animals getting used for experiments, such as animals would have to go through so much pain, and after the experiment was done, they wouldn't get any type of pain relief. They would just let them suffer. Like, I am the least they could do is give them something to calm down the pain, but no, they let them suffer. In that case, this act helped regulate animal testing because it was getting out of control. This act applies to all animals in order to keep them, given that we wouldn't dare to hurt the animals we own. So why would we want to hurt other animals just because we aren't close to them as we are with other pets? It's not fair to any animals in general to be put through that pain. Now moving on to the culture and sociological of animal testing.
Animal tested cosmetics, more specifically in California. So, testing cosmetics on animals. To this day, cosmetic tests are still being performed on animals. Cosmetic tests include rubbing chemicals into the eye and skin of rabbits, forcing animals to swallow chemicals in large doses, and forcing animals to eat in order to observe behavior after using a certain cosmetic. So, rubbing chemicals into the eye and skin gives the company an idea of if the product produces skin and eye irritation so that they can write that on the back of whatever they're selling. Example, it'll say, do not get on this part of the skin, or if you get this in your eye, rinse out with this or call this number, so on and so forth. Forcing animals to swallow chemicals in large doses. After forcing animals to eat it, they observe it to see how much of this chemical being swallowed will make you toxic, how much will kill you. So then they can also write that down. Forcing animals to eat in order to observe behavior after using a certain cosmetic. So after the animal, rabbit, guinea pig, whatever it is exposed to this chemical, they'll force it to eat so then they can see will this rabbit or guinea pig get any diseases, cancer, tumors, anything, so they can also write that down. So companies that test on animals include Aveeno, Johnson & Johnson, Gucci, Burberry, and L'Oreal. So these are very popular brands. L'Oreal's makeup, Johnson & Johnson skincare, Gucci and Burberry are clothing, Aveeno's also skincare. So when I say cosmetic, we're not only talking makeup, foundation, mascara, all that. We're talking skin products, hair products, like Tresemme, tests on animals, and we're talking anything that you can put on your body, not just makeup. The ban of animal-tested cosmetics in California. So in September of 2018, Governor Jerry Brown signed a bill and made it into law. This law has prohibited the selling of cosmetics in California that have been tested on animals. Companies that violate this law will be fined $5,000 and an extra $1,000 for each day they continue to violate this law. However, this law will not be in motion until January 1st of 2020, so next year. So these are organizations against animal testing. There are way more than this, but these are the most important or most popular. So you have PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, the Johns Hopkins Center for Alternatives to Animal Testing. Their mission is to provide alternative science research options other than animals. So they're trying to find a way to shift from using animals for testing to something else. Animal Legal Defense Fund. Their one goal is to fight legislation related to harming animals, because animals also have rights in their eyes. The AAVS, which is the American Anti-Vivisection Society. So, one group we're going to talk about is PETA. PETA is the largest animal rights organization in the world, and it stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. They focus on the rights of animals in areas such as clothing and food, the entertainment industry, the scientific field, and much more. They shed light on the mistreatment of animals in everyday human life, which of course includes animal testing. So if you go to the PETA website, there is a lot of information you can be found on animal testing and a list of companies that test on animals. Not only that, you can figure out a group of people who use animals for clothing. They support vegan lifestyle, and everything else that basically says animals also have rights. So they use this website and this platform to expose companies, and they have caused some companies to go out of business. No people no longer want to support them, and they basically just educate the public on the horrifics of animal testing. So the ethical aspects of animal testing is unethical. So testing on animals is completely inhumane and cruel. During trials, animals are force-fed, inflicted with pain, forced to inhale chemicals, and are even deprived of food or water. Afterwards, these animals are killed by suffocation, decapitation, having their neck broken, or any other means to get the job done. And during this entire process, animals are not provided with pain relief such as anesthesia, no type of medicine. They just feel the pain. The Animal Welfare Act. So this is the act that was put into motion in 1966, and its main priority was to protect animals. However, 95% of the animals used in experiments are not protected by this act. So the list of protected animals does not include rats, mice, fish, or birds, and these animals are used in 95% of the experiments. But even with this act in motion, some of the 5% that are protected in animal experiments are still not protected.
Why people are against animal testing? The simple answer is that animal testing is cruel, inhumane, and a crime. Animal testing is a cruel and disgusting act against humanity. It is not humane to inject drugs, viruses, and test cosmetic products on animals. It is wrong. There is no telling what will happen to these animals. They will likely die in a lab with a disease or effects of cosmetics that could have never been or could have never come into contact with in the wild. These animals are suffering in small cages with burns, tumors, viruses, open wounds, and constant pain. animal testing is wrong. Animal testing doesn't make sense because animals and humans don't share much of the same genetic material. Inhumane, unnecessary, cruel, and barbaric. Animals are not for testing. These two quotes: diseases that are artificially induced in animals in a laboratory, whether they be mice or monkeys, are never identical to those that occur naturally in human beings. And because animal species differ from one another biologically in many significant ways, it becomes even more unlikely the animal experiences will yield results that will be correctly interpreted and applied to the human condition in a meaningful way. This quote comes from PETA. Even though humans share genetic material with other animals, it doesn't necessarily mean it is expressed in the same way. For example, a recent study compared the activity of human genes important for species. Trauma and burns with equivalent mouse genes revealed that humans and mice use very different sets of genes to cope with these insults. This explains why 150 drugs that successfully treated species-like conditions in mice failed in human clinical trials. This quote comes from NAVS. Conclusion. In conclusion, many people have different views of animal testing. Looking at the history of animal testing, it has been around for centuries, documented long ago by very well-known philosophers. Many people have different opinions on animal testing. However, some believe that it is unethical. Animals were used for cosmetic testing, and only recently was this banned in California. Some organizations are strongly against animal testing, and these organizations include PETA, Johns Hopkins Center for Alternatives to Animal Testing, the Animal Legal Defense Fund, and AAVS, American Anti-Vivisection Society. Focused directly on the ethical aspects of animal testing, it can be argued that it isn't ethical at all. Animals are basically held against their will, tested on various things such as drugs, cosmetics, and even viruses to see if they can respond well. Overall, this presentation shows why animal testing is not a good use of animals. This is our opinion on animal testing. Overall, I think that sometimes, yes, animal testing could be seen as wrong or inhumane. But when looking at how medicine has evolved over times because of animals, it is amazing. Without animals, the complete understanding of anatomy and physiologically wouldn't be complete. Also, we have to take in the factor of drugs. If certain drugs were not tested on animals first, then certainly more humans would die. In the last slide, we discussed how many companies are now discussing the 3 R's, which mean reduce, refine, and replace. Yes, it is a great campaign, but what do you replace an animal with during drug trials? I personally wouldn't want to take a drug and risk my life because the drug has not been tested. We do owe respect to animals, but animal testing is truly needed and has been essential to science for years. Lastly, I think we have to acknowledge how far animal testing has come. When animal testing first began, yes, animals felt pain. However, after anesthetics were created, in recent years past, federal laws began to regulate animal testing. This is huge. Now animal testing is monitored by the FDA and USDA. Overall, I understand why animal testing is frowned upon, but as a person who takes medicine and has vaccines, I am for animal testing. These were our resources, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.